Welcome back to Vikes with a Mike. Tyler, it's good to be recording with you again, buddy. It's been a heck of a weekend.
Yeah.
Um, let's get right into it, man. Draft week is always fun,
Yep.
and coming out of it, now getting to do the breakdown of all the players and um, just some reactions to other picks around the league. Should be a very fun episode. I'm very excited to get into this stuff today. So, obviously, let's start with the home team, right? I mean,
Yep.
the Vikings, man, they made some moves for the draft, and
Yep.
I think that they paid off massively.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about you. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts. Right off the bat, like give me your immediate reaction to the Vikings draft
Well,
class.
when we made that trade with the New York Jets, my first reaction was I wasn't very happy because I didn't think any of our
Yeah,
guys were going to fall back to 23. I was skeptical about it. But Rick, man, Slick Rick found a way. I also have to thank the Las Vegas Raiders. Shout out to the Raiders for taking Alex Leatherwood in the first round.
yes, sir. Absolutely. It sucks to have to like thank them like that because it's a little tongue in cheek, especially them being my second favorite
Yeah.
team. But for sure, yeah, it's definitely huge that they reached, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm big on Alex Leatherwood. I just didn't see him as a first round talent, especially at 17. I didn't like that pickup right there. I think you could have got him in the early second, even mid second, in my opinion. But for Christian Darrisaw to fall right into the Vikings' laps at 23, unbelievable. Realistically, best case scenario for the Vikings if they were going to trade back that far. And I think Rick hit the home run right there, man. That was a beautiful trade.
Well, yeah, I think it was absolutely a home run because of what it turned into in the end,
Yep.
right? So when you
Yep.
look at the picks, and obviously we'll go into those one at a time here soon, and break those all down for those of you maybe who didn't follow the draft as closely or don't know these guys
Yep.
coming out of college. That's what we're here for. So, um, but yeah, I mean, you already brought it up, so let's get started. The Vikings started the night, I should say, day one, with the 14th overall pick. And they traded down to 23 overall, and they gained two third rounders. They also gave up a fourth rounder in that trade. But so
Yep.
basically, fall back the nine spots that they did and gain two very solid third round selections.
Yep.
One of them being the second pick in the round, which was very nice with the Jets. The Jets take Elijah Vera Tucker at number 14, a guy
Yep.
that a lot of mock drafts, including quite a few of ours, had going to the Vikings at
Yep.
14 if they stayed. So yeah, a lot of us kind of hit the panic button
Yeah.
when when Rick decided to trade down and give up, the shot maybe to get a guy like AVT. But it all worked out, and we ended up getting offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech, Christian Darrisaw, on the Minnesota Vikings here. Tell me how you feel about Christian, my guy.
Oh, man, big 71, man. I'm excited. This dude has the potential to be an all-pro tackle. Didn't allow a
Absolutely.
sack. Graded at 95. I mean, for PFF, I'm super excited. He has the measurables, 6'5", 322. I mean, this dude's a monster. Rick wanted us to get bigger. Well, Zim said that in his press conference on the offensive line. Well, you start with this pick right here in the first round, and I absolutely love it. Darrisaw seems to have a side to him where he plays hard. He's good in the run game, very good in pass protection, and that's what this Viking offensive line needs the most. So that's why I love this pick a lot, and I'm super excited.
Absolutely. I think you touched on a lot of the big things, right? So didn't let up a single sack last year for Virginia Tech. That's
Yep.
massive. That's the
Yep.
biggest thing as far as Kirk Cousins goes, creating a really clean pocket for him to be able to step up in. He's an instant starter at left tackle, in my opinion.
Yep.
Obviously, all these guys have to come and improve themselves. But the cool thing is, I think we got at least two
Yep.
solid first day starters in this draft. We'll get into that second guy later on here in a bit, but Yeah, I think Darisaw immediately improved the stock of this offensive line by a lot, which is saying something because he's taking over for a Riley Reef, a guy who we lost in free agency. I know you and I were not happy about him departing, even though he ends up going to your Bengals to protect Joey Burrow. This is arguably the second most important position in football behind the quarterback is left tackle, I would say, because of the fact that you're protecting 90% of the quarterback's blind spots in this league because all of them are right-handed. So yeah, man, I absolutely love this kid. He's massive. I think the only knock on him was consistency. Sometimes he looked a little lackadaisical in his blocking, especially in his run blocking, maybe not always trying to get to the second level. That's something you can coach. That's something that at the pro level, your team is not going to allow to have happen. You're going to be motivated by those around you. And I think he's extremely happy to be here in Minnesota and to just be a professional football player at this point in his life, based off his introductory press conference with the Vikings. There's zero doubt in my mind that this kid is going to give it his all to this team. So very excited to see what Christian Darisaw can do. Very stoked to see how much he improves this offensive line because I think it's going to be major. Again, we'll get more into another possible day one starter on the offensive line that the Vikings took in the draft here in a bit. And when we get there, I have something interesting to tell you about our offensive line once we hit that next prospect. Real quick, though, while we're talking about the first round, I want to get your thoughts. Justin Fields goes to the Bears. Obviously, they trade up to number 11 and nag Justin Fields there. There were a lot of talks about the Vikings watching Justin Fields fall, especially once, it was kind of apparent he was going to get out of the top 10. Talks in the war room, apparently, according to Courtney Cronin of ESPN, that they were going to try and trade up and select Justin Fields at one point until obviously the Bears gave up what they did, which was a lot to go and get Justin Fields. How would you have felt about that? How do you feel about hearing that? I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
I like what we got in Hall instead. I would not have wanted to give up a next year's first rounder, arguably even more picks from this year's draft. I think our load is phenomenal, getting a 2 caliber, maybe starting offensive lineman, and also getting another player that we'll get into that I very like. But I don't know. I think the Giants, I think Justin Fields has a chance to be a franchise quarterback in this league. If you put him in the right system, the Bears are going to have to do a really good job with him. But I think the Giants ultimately won this trade, to be honest with you. I think
absolutely.
I feel like them moving back, getting a guy like Kadarius Toney that fills a big need for them in the slot, and then getting that first round pick next year, I feel like is phenomenal for the New York Football Giants because the Bears might not be good. I think they're a fringe playoff team, in my opinion, for next year.
Well, right. And I mean, we can get more into the specifics of this a little bit later when we talk about other picks around the league that might have shocked us or intrigued us. But just kind of final thoughts on that is you still have kind of this whole quarterback situation going on in Chicago. Pretty sure that Foles is still on the roster. You got obviously Dalton, who was going to be their QB1. And then now you got Justin Fields. Does Justin Fields start right away? This defense having been practically completely dismantled. I think Akeem Hicks still wants out, as far as I understand. The coaching staff, even the front office, are they on their last year if they don't perform? I don't think that Justin Fields is going into the situation that would have been as good for him. And just my thoughts real quick on if we had traded up and selected Justin Fields. I think that, and we're going to get into this with the next pick, I think that the succession plan for Kirk Cousins is something that definitely needed to be addressed. But kind of like what you said, I don't think the price would have been as steep since we were at 14 and Chicago was at 20 as far as moving up and getting Fields. But the fact that another first rounder was involved, and we don't have a ton of draft capital already moving into next year. I'm glad that we didn't. I'm really glad that we got the stud that we did. And in the end, the trade that we ended up making at 14 to move back gave us potentially our quarterback of the future, which is a perfect segue into our next pick. The Vikings did not hold a second round pick in the 2021 NFL draft. They had instead 4 third round picks, which all were used. The first of which, the second pick in the third round, Kellen Mond, quarterback, Texas A&M, the QB of the future potentially in Minnesota. Kellen Mond officially rocking the number 11 for the Minnesota Vikings, notably a Dante Culpepper jersey. Also another guy that I'm not going to mention as of recently because he wasn't nearly as good on offense, but tell me about your immediate thoughts of Kellen Mond, my guy.
I absolutely love it. I've talked to you about it already. He's not going to come in and start right away, which is awesome. We got Kirk Cousins for a good solid 2 to 3 more years. That's perfect for Kellen Mond. I feel like he is still a project. He's got a lot of good traits in him, though. His accuracy isn't as where I want it to be right now, but I feel like Kirk and I feel like our system's going to help him improve that. And I feel like in 2 to 3 years, I think he could definitely he's going to be a chance for him to start at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. But I love it. I mean, I'd say his pro comparison, in my opinion, is kind of a prime Colin Kaepernick when he was playing at his best. They've got a lot of similar traits, in my opinion.
So yeah, that's great. And I mean, who doesn't love to hear that as far as a quarterback that, if that's kind of his comparison currently, I would say, what he could theoretically develop into. Geez, that would be amazing. Because I think he has a much higher ceiling than prime Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Now, Kellen Mond is arguably the most experienced quarterback out of the quarterbacks drafted in this class. He's practically a 4-year starter at Texas A&M. Had a solid-ish year for taking over when he did in his freshman year. I believe he was a redshirt freshman, actually. Made a big jump in his sophomore year, kind of fell off in his junior year, didn't progress as much as we wanted to see. But then last year,
senior year,
amazing, played so great, led his team to a 9-1 season. Obviously, QB wins are not a stat, but this kid has it all.
Yep.
If you haven't already looked up Kellen Mond, go look up some stuff from his pro day specifically. The dude can chuck the ball. He's pretty dang accurate. He's slimmer, and he's got that more of that athletic build, so he's quick on his feet. The biggest thing for him are the technicalities, of working the QB position. The accuracy at the pro level, the football mind. Arguably the things that Kirk Cousins is one of the most elite quarterbacks at in this league are what are being said as Kellen Mond's weaknesses. So Kellen Mond could not have come into a more perfect situation. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it's in the 4.5-ish area, 4.5 million. He's going to sign a 4-year deal worth about that much money. So Kirk has the 2 years left this year and next year. And then it might be Kellen Mond season. I mean, tell me how you would feel about that, like being groomed by an accurate passer like Kirk Cousins and then taking over with the weapons that this offense could theoretically have at their prime,
Yeah. I mean, I would love it. I mean, it just really depends on how the coaching staff, how the ownership feels about it. I don't know how his development's going to go in the next 2 years. That's for the future to decide, but I would be excited. I mean, What I've seen on tape. I mean, another thing, it was the Senior Bowl MVP as well. So
that's true. Didn't mention that. That's a great point. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not going to go back on what I said. I still believe that in the right situation, I would have had Davis Mills higher on my board, and he was the QB that went right after the Vikings, but he went to Houston. So, again, I'll never go against the words that I say on this podcast. They are etched in history, and anybody can look back and, hold me accountable to them. But I'd be shocked if Davis Mills does more in Houston than Kellen Mond does in Minnesota, just because of the situations that these quarterbacks are going into. Davis going into a situation there in Houston with Deshaun Watson, and Kellen going into a situation here with Kirk Cousins where he's not even going to be in the conversation of starting a game this year or next year, most likely.
Yeah.
Unless, obviously, injuries, which is good. We finally have a backup quarterback that I'm...
Yeah, that's just another thing. Like, I'm so thankful Sean Mannion's done, I hope. I mean, never bring him back, Rick,
no,
please.
God, no.
Never. Like, just not even on the coaching staff. Just don't ever bring him back. I don't want to ever see that guy in a football field in my life ever again.
Yeah, I'm good. No need. With their next pick at 78 overall, if I'm remembering correctly, yes, linebacker Chaz Surratt. How are you feeling about the linebacker position being addressed third by the Minnesota Vikings here?
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this guy was a turn quarterback, I'm hearing. I'm just like,
played 2 years of quarterback at UNC and then moved to linebacker for the other 2 years.
I don't hate this pick. I mean, I didn't really like it when I first heard it, but like, I get what they're trying to do here. He's an athletic guy who's a really good coverage linebacker, kind of like JOK, but like, I don't see him starting linebacker at all next year. Maybe as a backup guy, maybe replacing a guy like Todd Davis on this team.
Okay.
I don't see him being that good of a tackler in the NFL. His build doesn't seem he's quick. I think they'll use him on like a lot of speed rusher opportunities. Maybe we're gonna send him through gaps and stuff. I just don't see him as a true Mike linebacker in the NFL ever because of his build. I mean,
I don't think that Chaz is meant to come in here right off the bat and
I don't either.
on defense. I think that he's meant to come in and contribute on special teams where the Vikings lacked a lot this last year. I think that, maybe he could be kind of a gunner type guy, or just any sort of coverage on kick returns, I think, is a place where he can start making his name. He took the number 41. I don't know if you know of a guy who recently was on this team with the number 41. His name is Anthony Harris.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Made a name for himself, and he kind of took a similar path of undrafted. I mean, obviously Chaz is drafted, but what I mean is like starting from the bottom and working your way up to a starting position and being really good at it. So, I mean, I think he's at least given himself luck with the number. I'll give him that.
He seems like a Mike Zimmer type of player, so I kind of get this pick. But at the end of the day, he is a developmental player, in my opinion, at the end of the day. And like Anthony Harris was an undrafted player. This guy's a 3rd round pick. There's still so much talent in the draft as a 3rd round pick. I feel like, I don't know, you really want to risk this and take a developmental project with this pick. I mean, I don't hate the pick. I think it could have been worse, but in my opinion, I don't think it was the best pick for the Vikings. But he does seem like a Mike Zimmer player, good coverage linebacker like Eric Hendricks. I just don't feel like he's a good tackler. So that's my analysis.
It's going to be one of those things where we're going to probably have to look back at this in like, honestly, 2 or 3 years to see if this guy if he even makes it on the roster past training camp, right? I mean, we'll see. I think the linebacker is one of those positions that we don't have quite enough depth at, especially with a guy like Anthony Barr, going in free agency next year.
Yep.
Eric Wilson obviously left us. Todd Davis not coming back. So linebacker is a position that we did need some depth at. I would have liked other guys that were on the board. We won't get into that too much because I don't think that it's like super shocking necessarily the way that it goes. And I'm not in the war room. I don't know what these guys know. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm obviously rooting for him. Every single one of these guys, even if I talk down on them a bit, rooting for him all the way. With that, though, we get into the next pick. And this is a guy that I wanted at number 78. But instead,
Yep.
he
Same.
ends up falling to us at our third pick in the third round. Offensive guard Wyatt Davis out of Ohio State. I mean, this guy was a first round mock early in the year.
He was.
And we got him here at, I believe, 86, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, 86.
86.
So, dude, I mean, I'll let you go, man. I couldn't even. Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's the value of this pick was awesome. I mean, I think he was 61 on PFF's big board, and we got him at 86. Like, come on, man.
Great value.
I love it. I mean, he's gonna be. I feel like
I think he's gonna be an instant starter at probably right guard, which is fine. I think obviously Ezra was a guy that they were looking at trying to slide over to left tackle. Obviously, getting Christian Darrisaw. But I think the fact that we now have a Christian Darrisaw, Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradbury, Davis, and Brian O'Neill line is massive. Sorry, I think you kind of cut out. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, like, I'm super excited for Davis. Because I think he's going to take the right guard job right away.
Yes.
I feel like this is a fully revamped group then, because I feel like his spot then takes out the last weakness in this line, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So took number 51, wore 52 in college, but that's Mason Cole's number now. A guy that, could also is going to be in that kind of conversation for a guard spot. But this kid, man. So the thing that I was talking about earlier with Christian Darrisaw, when I said, once we get to the other offensive linemen that we took, PFF came out with an article that said the Minnesota Vikings, your Minnesota Vikings, have the most improved offensive line after the offseason out of any NFL team. Do you know how awesome it is to be able to say that as a Vikings fan? And I'm sure you feel the same exact way.
Yeah.
A lot of us feel the same way. We've been scratching and clawing and just doing anything we can to make the Vikings sign tackles, sign guards, take them in early rounds, guys that are amazing. This is a completely new line. Brian O'Neill, absolute stud. Christian Darrisaw, I think, is going to be a certified stud. I'm super stoked about Wyatt Davis. And then Ezra Cleveland performed pretty dang well in that guard spot last year. The only other thing that's kind of worrisome is a Garrett Bradbury, but even then, he's getting so much size around him now and so much solid help that it's not going to be on him as much as it might have been in the past. And I really think that's going to bring his game back to what it was his rookie year at least.
Yeah, dude. His 2020 season, he was injured. I think his 2019 season was what stands out in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That's the only reason he fell, because of injury.
Right.
You look at the 2019 tape of this guy, it's crazy what he was doing. I mean, it really is. I mean, he was one of the best linemen in the freaking league in all college football in 2019 even, and he didn't even go to the draft. He was injured this past season.
And in yeah, right. In 2020, man, if I remember correctly, I don't even think that it's not like he played bad by any means. He just didn't dominate the way that I think they wanted him to, per se. I think that a lot of these scouting reports and stuff have basically said it, and they even said this when the Vikings drafted him, and I think we kind of knew it going in. He never really just kind of took that leap that people were hoping to see as far as his production in 2020, but it wasn't bad by any means. That being said, he is definitely a guard. Like, this is not one of those Vikings picks of, he's athletic, he can move between tackle and guard, or like center and guard. No, he's going to be a guard. He's not going to play anything else.
Yeah, don't mess around here, guys.
Extremely great talent. He's super well balanced. I mean, he can move guys forward. He can fall back and pass protect really well. There's not really enough that I can say that's good about this guy. I absolutely love this pick. So if you're counting, I know I didn't go over the exact picks that we got from the Jets, but so that was the last one. So in the end, our trade with the Jets ended up being Christian Darrisaw, Kellen Mond, and Wyatt Davis. I'd say we won that draft.
Yeah.
That trade. I'd say we won that trade.
Yep. That's amazing. That's really amazing.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I if there's one thing leaving the draft that I'm the most excited about, it's our revamped offensive line. Just to be completely clear. I mean, can you imagine Dalvin behind that new offensive line there? Can you imagine Kirk with like 3 seconds at least behind that line? Bro, we might not lose a game. I'm just saying, especially with the defense that's coming back and like been rebuilt. I'm so stoked, bro. I'm so stoked.
They must have finally been listening to the fans, man.
Yeah, bro. They've been listening to the podcast, bro. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yep. Exactly.
How about our next guy though? They address another position of need here. So the big positions of need, obviously, that left tackle spots, the guard spots, or whichever one you want to choose, left or right, whatever one Ezra wasn't going to play. And then that right defensive end spot, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they addressed it pretty well here with the next pick. Defensive end Patrick Jones II out of Pittsburgh. How are you feeling about the defensive end pick here? Number 93, by the way, a number of a lot of Minnesota Viking greats, including John Randall, Kevin Williams. We're not going to mention Shamar Stephen, but he was there. And then Sheldon Richardson. So at least 3 of those guys played really well. Sheldon obviously left, but what are your thoughts on Patrick Jones II?
All right. Well, apparently he was sort of, I'm hearing things that he was maybe like a 4th or 5th round guy, but listen, here's the thing, people. It was because of his pro day. It wasn't great. His 40 time was not that good, but when you watch this guy on tape, I mean, I was just seeing explosive play after like what he was doing to some of these tackles. It was crazy. Like this guy, I love what I saw on tape. Like I feel like,
yeah, no, he's got a lot of those like super interesting tools, right? Like he has all of the stuff that a guy like Andre Patterson, Coach Pat, is going to look for in a defensive end to build upon. So sure, maybe he doesn't test the best out of all of the defensive ends that were in his class, but I mean, better for the Vikes, right? You know what I mean? Like, sure, you didn't test great and you fell down on people's boards, but now we got you here at number 90, and you're going to probably the best defensive line coach in the league, in Andre Patterson, who's going to turn you into a monster.
So Patrick Jones led the ACC. He led in his career at 16 sacks throughout the ACC, and he led the ACC last year. I love what this guy brings. Apparently, they like these Pittsburgh defensive linemen because we'll get into a guy later. But I don't know. Some of these guys on the defensive line Pittsburgh last year played really well. I love what I saw from Patrick Jones. Might not have had the best pro day, but at the end of the day, I feel like he's going to be a good player as a rotation, especially in the beginning of his career, hopefully.
Yeah. And so this isn't the only defensive end, obviously, that we took in this draft. We'll get into the other defensive end here in a little bit. But if you have Daniil as at least a 2 to 3 down player, right, on that left end, then here are your swaps on the right side, okay? And I'll leave out the other rookie just so we don't, get into that too soon. But you have DJ Wonham, Stephen Weatherly, and Patrick Jones.
Yep.
I dig that rotation.
I do too.
I absolutely love that rotation because I think DJ is going to take a big step. I love that Stephen chose back to come back to Minnesota and work with Andre and up his game even more, especially coming from a place where he started games in Carolina. Dude, yeah, it's massive. Absolutely massive.
Yeah.
So we're on to day 3 though already. That's the first 2 days of the draft in for the Vikings because again they didn't have that second round pick. Still though, 4 picks in the third round. That's quite a few. Really good value. The first pick though in day 3 was very interesting to me. I know that you have some feelings about this. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. At 119, the Minnesota Vikings took running back / kick returner Kene Nwangu out of out of Iowa State. Obviously, I'd assume a guy who's gonna, replace a Mike Boone on the depth chart. Potentially, maybe the writing on the wall too for a guy like Amir Abdullah, since he's a kick returner. So in that regard, it's like, sure, cheaper option. The guy is fast and he plays hard. And I've seen a lot of stuff that, like he only fell because he went to Iowa State. Like he's absolutely one of the top athletes in this draft. But I feel like this is a guy that would have been on the board later for the Vikings. I think they could have waited.
Yeah.
Quite a bit in my humble opinion. I don't know. Give me your thoughts.
This is my least favorite pick of the draft.
Interesting.
With a guy like Tylan Wallace on the board at 119, I don't understand why you're taking a guy who's going to be your third string running back, and pretty much the only thing he's going to be doing on your team is being a punt returner or a kick returner. Like, value, in my opinion, isn't great with this pick at all. Tylan Wallace is going to be your third wide receiver right off the rip. I mean, he's easily better than Chad Beebe and BC Johnson, like easily. I just don't. A third string running back in the 4th round. Again, there's still great talent in the 4th round. Like, this is your first pick of the day. Why are you taking a third string running back? I get he's a great athlete, and I like to hear that he can be able to return kicks and stuff, but he's just a one-dimensional player. He's a special teamer. I don't get why we're taking that in the 4th round. You know what I mean? It just doesn't really make sense when I feel like there's so many better players on the board that can do a lot more things to help this football team win.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, hey, maybe they took him this high because they wanted a guy to quickly replace Alexander Madison, thinking maybe his contract was up. Nope.
Yeah.
He's signed under 2021 and he signed under 2022. So if Alexander's a guy that they want to keep, not only is he still a super cheap option, but I think he's somebody that they can get a really good push out of for the next 2 years at least. So very interesting, very, very interesting, especially since, like you said, Tylan Wallace still on the board. I love Thielen. I'll be the first guy to stand up for Thielen when you talk about like the top 5 to 10 wide receivers in the league. White kid born in Minnesota who played wide receiver and wears the number 19. You cannot describe a person more that I would love. So I only say that because he's getting a little old. Thielen, I love you, and I hope you're listening. I doubt you are. But if you are, man, I love you, and I think that you can play several more years for the Minnesota Vikings. But I don't know if he's going to be able to keep putting up the same on-the-field production that he is. I think that he's going to slowly, as he gets a little bit older, turn into kind of more of a gadget guy, more of a red zone target type guy, because he's not going to lose those hands, but he's going to get slower. Hopefully the route running doesn't go away, but there's a likelihood that will too. So, it's so hard to say, man. Who knows? Maybe the writing right now in the stars is that we're going to get Larry Fitzgerald's last year in the league. We're going to take the two old Cardinals, and we're going to go win them a Super Bowl.
Oh, that would be the greatest story ever, man.
Would that not be absolutely amazing? Would that not be absolutely amazing? But anyways, we'll keep moving. I don't think there's anything really left to say. Again, cannot stress this enough. We might talk crap or you might think we're talking crap about certain draft picks, but we're rooting for them. We're just talking about the situation and our like snap grades and snap ideas of these picks. We'll see how they're all utilized after training camp, preseason, into the season, all that good stuff.
Yep.
So at number 125, the Vikings select Cameron Bynum, and he's going to be a safety. I know a lot of people had him a lot lower on their board, but I think a lot of them still had him at cornerback. Whereas going into this draft, a lot of people knew a lot of the profiles that you saw on him basically said his skill set, his length, all of that, it fits safety at a professional level. That's great. Honestly, he's a developmental guy. He's stoked to be a Viking. If you have not seen the video of him reacting to his pick,
I saw that.
Y'all need to go look that up right now. Cameron Bynum. It's on all of his social media platforms. Go find it. It's amazing. He dives into a lake as he's going to the land of 10,000 lakes. So couldn't be happier about that. But what a great situation for him, right? He's got two solid veteran safety presences in Harrison Smith and Xavier Woods that he can learn from for the next several years. I really dig this pick. I think that he could turn into something because he's got a really good football IQ, and you can tell when you watch the film on him that he has those instincts. It's just you want to see him tackle a little bit better and get a little bit more aggressive when he has to attack a receiver one-on-one, which if you're playing safety, you don't need to do as much, but still.
No, he is a little developmental in my opinion, but I mean, we're taking him. He's got some good traits. Like you said, he's got a good IQ, good football IQ. He's a good hitter, I guess. I mean, he's really good in zone coverage is what I'm hearing. I don't know. I mean, he's going to learn behind Harrison Smith. So, I mean, I think he's a great kind of like backup kind of player just for some more depth at safety because we're kind of lacking behind Xavier and Harrison, obviously, right now. So I don't hate this pick at all. I really don't. I feel like he's going to learn well with Zim. And I think Harry is a perfect mentor for a guy like this who's excited to be a Viking. Like you said, I can't wait to see him play, man.
Yeah, absolutely stoked. Super, super excited about him. Our next pick is the other defensive end that I was talking about. We picked him at 134, out of Florida State. Your Minnesota Vikings select Janarius Robinson. Again, another guy who, if you just look at the athletic build, all of these guys look the same, right? I think is the quote basically that Zimmer and Spielman said during their press conferences. Like when we get out to training camp, or even, depending on how OTAs go and who all shows up for that, you're going to look at this group of defensive ends, left and right side. They're all going to have a very similar profile build. And that makes sense, right? Like Andre Patterson knows what works in this league. There's a reason that he is the best defensive line coach in the NFL, according to some of the best defensive minds currently in the NFL. So, I'll take a 6'5", 263-pound guy out of a school like Florida State who gave us a 9.33 score on the athletics.
I saw that.
Out of 10. I mean, dude. Sure, a bit of a project, but now add this name to that group of guys that I was talking about rotating, right? Like now you have at least 2 to 3 guys that can rotate on both ends where you feel like you're really getting some really solid pressure. And there's another guy coming up here at the end of this draft that is just insane value on the defensive line that we're going to get into at the end. Yep. So what are your thoughts, though? Sorry, didn't mean to take up.
I dig this pick as well, though. I hit the arm length. Freaking, I mean, it's crazy. This guy, he's a developmental project, but again, I think his ceiling is very high. This Janarius Robinson guy,
right.
And working with the best defensive line coach, Andre Patterson. Like I'm stoked. I mean, I think a rotation of 3, even it's like 4 guys now. Like these guys are going to be fresh when they get into the game. Like they're not going to be tired.
Right.
Like,
Which is
you think about
huge.
like they're not going to be tired out there. They're going to be rotating in and out, and they're going to be fresh. They're going to be ready to go, ready to get to the quarterback. Like, I'm excited. This guy comes from Florida State. They usually develop really good defensive players at Florida State. So I can't wait to see him work with the Vikings, man. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen, I can't think right off the top of my head which profile it was, but I've seen profiles of this guy that basically say he's such an athlete and he has such the right developmental skills that the Vikings are looking for, that there could be a point in the season where he earns the starting job on the right side of the defensive line, which is insane. Especially since, like, again, you sign a guy like Stephen Weatherly, you take a guy earlier like Patrick Jones in this draft. So pretty crazy. Very excited to see what comes out of these defensive line players, because that was somewhere we lacked majorly last year. And man, dude, can you imagine? Again, like 3 to 3.5 to even 4 seconds for Kirk Cousins, but like 2 seconds for opposing quarterbacks. That is a lot of dubs, my guy. That's a lot of dubs.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now, the next 2 picks are very interesting. This next one specifically is one that I think you're very excited about. Yeah. I've seen a lot of excitement about this pick, which is interesting because I had only heard his name maybe twice during this entire process.
Okay.
At 157, Vikings take, hopefully, a wide receiver 3, Ihmir Smith-Marsette. I really, really enjoy watching this kid. Obviously, out of the Big Ten, out of Iowa, if I'm correct. So a guy that can play and is good in the slot. He's a big athlete, he's a little skinnier. So, that like physical type of man coverage probably is going to be a little bit tougher for him to adjust to. But Keenan McCardell, who, if people don't know who that is, he's the new Vikings wide receiver coach, a coaching hire that was praised around the NFL. Absolutely loved this kid. Apparently he was standing up in the war room, basically telling these guys, like, you need to draft him at this spot, or I'm going to have a fit. So another guy who can fight for, potential punt return / kick return job. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the value here. I forget some of the wide receivers that were on the board at the time. Obviously, you had a guy like Cade Johnson get all the way to the UDFAs, signed with Seattle. But, I mean, I obviously, like I said, like, who am I to question the wide receivers coach of an NFL team? You know what I mean? If he's standing up and saying, I want this guy, especially a coach as good as him.
That's exactly what I was going to say, though. Like, that was McCardell's guy. Like, he wanted Marsette. But I just love the speed of this guy. Like, he's not the best route runner, but, like, that's not what the Vikings need in a wide receiver 3 in my moment. We have guys like BC Johnson who are, like, decent route runners. But, like, we need a guy who has vertical speed and can beat guys over the top. And that's what Smith-Marsette, in my opinion, can do. And if you think about it, like, when the Vikings are going to be running 3 receiver sets in games that they're down and they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, you're going to have a guy like Adam Thielen in the slot who's a very polished route runner, and you're going to have a guy like Ihmir Smith-Marsette on the outside who can beat the.
Well, I see. So that's interesting that you say that you have him on the outside, because I have a lot of things that I've read that have seen him going more in the slot. You know what I mean? Like using his speed as a vertical threat, similar to kind of what JJ did at LSU his senior year, and using his speed and his shiftiness in the slot to be a vertical threat for the Vikings, which I love, because BB in the slot, you can use BB in the slot on like a 3rd and 4 and less, in my opinion, because he's such a smaller guy. He's such a little gadget guy. Like, sure, this might be like the hate on BB podcast, basically. but I will give him this. He can find holes in the zone. And because he's got that smaller body, that really works to his advantage. Emir Smith-Marset is much faster than Chad Beebe and is a lot shiftier than Beebe, in my opinion. So much more of a slot receiver, in my opinion, when you have a guy like Thielen and Jefferson that can play on the outside and are so good at their route running and have that quickness. Maybe they'll start putting him at the outside since, like I said, Thielen's getting a little old. But I do think it's really interesting that your first thought was outside for him.
Well, I think he can beat guys one-on-one coverage all day of the week. I don't, with his speed, it's kind of like Rondale Moore type of thing. I think they're going to run him in the slot right away because that's what they're going to do. But I don't think it's a bad spot. I'm just saying as like he progresses in this system and learns the system more, I think they're going to move Thielen to the slot, but that's not a negative on Thielen. It's just that he's a polished route runner.
I think if he can put on some more weight, I think if he can put on some more muscle, then he can beat that one-on-one coverage. But otherwise, I think he's just going to get jammed way too much. You know what I mean? Like on the outside. Yeah. I feel like he wouldn't get around guys.
Yeah. I just think maybe not right away then, but I feel like down the stretch, I feel like once his NFL career begins 2-3 years
some
deep.
Point. Yeah, right. If he's able to stay in the league, then he's probably going to have to adapt to being outside for sure. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the next pick, I was not expecting the Vikings to address this position in the draft, to be completely honest with you. I thought we were good with where we were at with this position. If anything, we would sign like maybe a UDFA at this position. Yeah. But instead, the Vikings go out and they get, obviously, a guy that was on their board pretty high at 168 here, the tight end spots with the departure of Kyle Rudolph, Zach Davidson out of Central Missouri. So, I mean, again, had a guy with a really high athletic grade for the tight end class this year.
Yeah,
he had some really good production. He's 6'7", 245 pounds, and he ran a 4.64.
Damn.
So he is a receiver, not a blocking tight end, which is also super interesting to me because
that is
Irv Smith's like that guy that everybody has locked in as number one. And then you have Conklin, who's a really solid blocking tight end, but showed last year that he can go out and compete as a receiving tight end and do some big things when in big moments. So to bring on another guy, it's very interesting to me, especially a guy who's not like mainly to add more beef to the offensive line and be a blocker.
Yeah. I kind of, it is weird. I think he's going to be in a battle with Brandon Dillon for the third tight end spot.
And I think he beats him out, to be completely honest.
I do too. I really do too. But if he, for some reason, doesn't, the Vikings, I know for sure, 1,000% will try to get him on the practice squad. But it really depends on what teams see from this guy because, like, he just seems like a Rick Spielman type of pick, this guy. Like, he's just athletic, tight. Like, it just, I don't know.
I totally see Zach Davidson coming in to an extent on this roster with like athlete written in next to his name instead of tight end. You know what I mean? Like how they do in college. Like they just, they're like, oh, where can we like fit him? Where can we make a roster spot for this guy? Which I love. If the coaches love him as much as the front office loves him as much as they do, then dude, 10 years. If Zach Davidson has made a name for himself to the point where I could get a Zach Davidson jersey, call that home run. But you talk about home runs, my guy. In my humble opinion, I know that none of these guys have taken a snap yet, so they could all be busts for all we know. But at 199, the Tom Brady pick, mind you, they take Jalen Twyman, again out of Pittsburgh, defensive tackle. Bro, I have seen mocks that had a 3rd round grade on this guy, and we got him in the 6th.
Yeah.
Purely because he tested really, really bad, to be completely honest with you. He did not look good at his pro day. He's 6'2", 301 pounds. And he just looks like a monster. He looks like number one, he has no neck, which is kind of hilarious. Like I already like him just because of the way he looks. Like he's just a little, but he's so big. Like he's massive, bro. This is one of those guys where it's just like, all right, yep, you got your Tomlinson and your Pierce at defensive tackle, and then you just brought in a young potential stud to give those guys some breaks and develop behind them. Like, I think there's no higher value that you could have gotten at this pick, in my opinion, for our needs.
Sure. No, I don't hate this pick. I actually love it. I think he's going to be the backup 3 tech probably right off the roster behind Delvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
But he's going to be the backup, and he's going to be learning from these guys like Michael Pierce and Delvin Tomlinson just to add depth. I think that's Vikings just wanted to bolster this defensive line with that last pick. They're like, well, we got the offensive line fixed. Let's make our defensive line even better. Pick up a guy who basically could have been a 3rd-round player, just tested really poorly. He had a really good 2019 season. Wasn't he injured as well? Was he injured? Sure.
Yeah, he might have been a little injured. Yeah.
Again, like he's similar to Wyatt Davis in that remark. Like he's talented. It's just injuries. Like, but we've seen guys bounce back from injuries. So I'm not worried. I think he's going to be a good player, especially as a backup early in his career with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is just real quick before we go and move on to the next thing here, but Jalen Twyman is another guy. You talk about Cameron Bynum and his reaction to being drafted. Go look up the video of Jalen Twyman getting his call from Rick Spielman in the war room. There are not a lot of moments in football that will make you or like bring you to tears. I'm like kind of getting emotional just thinking about it. Like it's a super touching video. I absolutely think that you should definitely go check it out. But yeah, I mean, you look at the defensive tackle position now. Tomlinson, right? Who's a monster. Michael Pierce coming off a year of rest, another monster. My guy James Lynch, who I'm hoping takes a big step this next season. Jalen Holmes, a guy who I think is going into his 3rd year, so he's compelled the roster. He's compelled the Vikings to keep a roster spot for him for that long, and Jalen Twyman.
Yeah.
And then on the outside, who we've already talked about. I mean, most improved offensive and defensive line in the NFL definitely goes to the Vikings, in my opinion. Could not be more excited about the beef that we have added up front. But that is the entire draft. So now you know.
Yep.
Now you can take that forward into your conversations with your Vikings fans. Maybe you didn't know as much going into the draft. Well, there you go. There's a quick little synopsis of each little pick, what they're probably going to be doing, what it looks like. And I'm super stoked to like keep following these guys and see what happens. Rookie minicamp isn't that far away, so we're going to be getting some new content here. We'll see some of these guys in action, let you know what's going on. They'll go through their physicals, so if there's any remaining injury information, you'll definitely be notified of that. The last little thing that we have for you today is a reaction to some of the other picks around the league that we particularly found shocking, mainly in the top couple rounds here. So, Tyler, I know that you have some. I have some as well. We'll just kind of rapid fire go through them real quick and then get out of here. What do you got for us?
Oh, well, a pick I actually hate. Let's go to number 24. And I know you know what team that is. The Pittsburgh Steelers. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, Najee Harris. They took Najee Harris of Alabama. Okay, I don't hate Najee Harris as a player. I think he's a good player. I think he's a great prospect. I think him and ETN are 1A, 1B with the running backs. But Pittsburgh, You don't take a running back here with the first round. You have 1,000 needs. Your whole team is basically leaving. Your roster is aging really badly. You need anything on the offensive line, and you don't address that. I don't get what you're doing there. You got to take an offensive lineman, a guard, tackle. You need everything. You need a guard. You need a tackle. You could even go your defense. In my opinion, your defense is getting worse. It just to take a running back with this pick when you could have got Najee Harris or even Javonte Williams, who arguably could be even a better player than Najee Harris in the NFL. It just doesn't make sense with this pick with Pittsburgh. You have multiple team needs. Don't take a running back here. You could get a guy like that next year even. Najee Harris, he's great, but I still there's guys coming out of drafts every year. There's free agents every year. Like you take an offensive lineman who you're not going to find because it's harder to find a freaking good stout offensive lineman than it is Najee Harris. But I think Najee Harris is good. It's just you're going to find more guys like him coming out of college or even free agents. So it was a stupid pick. Pittsburgh, what are you doing? I had them taking a lineman every single time and they just didn't listen to me.
Yeah, I think you might have just put that into perfect words right there. That was amazing. I loved that. And what was hilarious was then like Travis Etienne going next to Jacksonville. So, oh man, I don't know. I think if you're Pittsburgh, there's so many other things you could have addressed, bro. So many other things.
Yeah.
But it's fine. In the first round, there weren't okay. I didn't hate any picks. Let me put that out there. But as somebody who considers myself a Raiders fan to a degree, Alex Leatherwood at 17 is interesting to say the least. Oh, okay. This is one of those moments where like I feel like I have to defer to the people that get paid millions of dollars to do this, but at the same time, I have it on very good, not authority, but just there's no reason that you could have. Oh, you know what? In the end, thank you. We got Christian Darrisaw because you took a tackle out of Alabama that you probably could have gotten in the second round. But no. Bro, it's fine. I'm fine. It's okay. It's all right. I don't have much more to say. Look, I hope it pans out. Offensive line is something the Raiders needed to address, but and then let me just get the both of us started because I think the last first round pick that we both take issue with just so happens to work out in favor for the fact that we're Vikings fans.
Yep.
Green Bay, what are you doing? You had Aaron Rodgers come out practically through Adam Schefter the day of the draft and say, "Hey, yo, I'm done. I'm so done. You have done everything to piss me off. I want out." And you take a corner at number 29. A corner, by the way, that didn't even have a first round grade on him. Just saying. Just putting that out there. Bro. Oh God. If you're in Green Bay, like if you're a Packer fan, you just must be like, you must feel like you're living in hell right now, right? Like this is terrible. Oh, I don't know what. I'm sure that you have thoughts on this.
I love it. I mean, you had Elijah Morse. You had Elijah Morse sitting on the board right there, and no, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to take it. He's a very fast corner. I don't think Eric Stokes is a bad player, but you could have got him in the second round. He doesn't have
Elijah and Rondale, didn't they? They had Rondale on the board too.
Yeah.
Two solid wide receivers. Yeah.
He does not have elite ball skills at all. He's not very good on the outside. He's just quick. I mean, he has upside, but I don't see it just with the value there and your quarterback being super ticked off at the moment. Like, why are you taking another corner? I mean, Kevin King is probably one of the worst corners I've ever seen, so it kind of makes sense now. But like, you still take a wide receiver there. I don't care what you're doing.
Like I get it. You needed a corner. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand that. But number one, the one that you took at 29, not worth the value at 29. Number two, why did you not go wide receiver? That would have made more sense with the value where you were at when your quarterback is pissed to the point where he wants out. Like, bro, it's fine. It's whatever. Honestly, I don't know why I'm mad. I'm not mad. It's funny to watch y'all suffer. But, like, I don't know. I guess it's the Minnesota nice in me that's just like, are you idiots? Like, they need us to spell it out for you, bro. But whatever, man. I mean, what's gonna happen is gonna happen, I guess. So we'll definitely keep you updated as far as that goes as well with the Rodgers situation. Not a ton more to report on it, to be completely honest. Just aside from the fact that he wants out, and I don't think that is gonna change. So super excited as Vikings fans to basically be the kings of the division by default. But yeah, I mean, unless I'm missing something, Tyler, I think that's all that we have for today, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, this has been fun. What a freaking NFL draft, man. So good to have it back. Good to see the draft in person there in Cleveland, taking place, you know, not everything being virtual again, because boy, that was rough last season. Vikings
to let to Roger.
Yeah, jeez, right. The Vikings hit big on their draft class, at least in the the first round and second round last year. So hopefully that is happening again with the first and third rounds this year. We're going to keep you posted on all of these guys as we keep up with the Vikings and they get into rookie mini camp, OTAs, training camp, all that good stuff. Always going to have some good content coming out for you guys. But yeah, that's all that we have for today. So thank you so much, as always, for listening. Make sure that you check us out at www.vikeswiththemike.com. All of our previous episodes are archived there. We are on YouTube at Vikes with a Mike. Follow us on social media. Support us in any way, shape, or form you can. Reach out to us. We love hearing from you guys. But yeah, man, super stoked for what the season is going to be bringing us and these specifically these new guys. Yes, big dubs. Yeah, this is going to be huge. But we will see you guys later with another episode. Thank you guys so much. Skol.